It's not Father Jerry.
What'd you say your name was?
Come on, you. Let's go.
Give me your cell phone.
The story kicks off at Denning Pharmaceuticals HQ, where an ex-employee named John rides the elevator with a suitcase in hand. Once he hits the executive floor, things escalate quickly. He opens the suitcase, pulls out a gun, and shoots several top executives without hesitation. Afterward, John heads back to the reception area, where he runs into the police. Before they can stop him, he delivers a chilling statement about how someone had to do something and then takes his own life. Later, the news sheds light on the chaos. Denning Pharmaceuticals is under fire for rushing an FDA approval on a new drug. Turns out the medicine's got fatal side effects, already causing a few deaths. This has triggered lawsuits left and right, and the company's stocks are tanking as they scramble to cover their tracks. Meanwhile, a high-profile lawyer named Alan jumps into the case against the company, seeing it as a make-or-break moment for his career. He assigns his assistant, Tom, to handle the paperwork and reminds him about resetting his key card every Monday morning, standard office security protocol. Now, here's the twist. With John, their key witness, out of the picture, Tom suggests broadening the case by including heart attack victims. But Alan isn't having it. Minor victims don't bring in the big bucks, he says bluntly. Things take another turn when Tom gets called into a higher-up's office regarding a crime family case he expressed interest in. Instead of a promotion, his boss shreds the memo he wrote and scolds him for not focusing on his current work. Frustrated, Tom heads to the file room to stash the rejected file. Tom's girlfriend, Anna, who's also his co-worker, drops by to check on him. They steal a few sneaky kisses before parting ways. Shortly after, Alan announces that the company servers have been down since last night, so everyone can call it an early day and head home. But before Tom can leave, Alan pulls him aside to berate him for a mistake with the memo and fires him on the spot. Crushed, Tom steps into the elevator, unsure of what's next. On his way out, he notices a man with a briefcase acting a little too shifty. Once outside, the man leaves the briefcase on the ground, which is promptly picked up by someone else who heads back inside. Suspicious, Tom watches closely and decides to follow, noting which floor the man heads to. However, his key card has already been deactivated for the week. Tom asks the security guard to reactivate it and heads back to investigate. When he gets to the office, things feel off. His coworker Roger is at his desk, but he's acting strangely. To make matters worse, Tom notices that the file he'd just put away earlier is now sitting out in plain sight. Growing uneasy, he starts recording everything on his phone and hides it in a pencil holder before continuing his search. Things escalate when Tom spots the mysterious man tampering with a power box. A lawyer approaches the guy, asking for ID. The man claims he's part of maintenance, but the lawyer doesn't buy it and tries to call for confirmation. That's when the stranger pulls out a gun and shoots her without hesitation. Panicked, Tom bolts to the bathroom, where he stumbles upon the body of the security guard stuffed into a stall. As he checks the body, he accidentally triggers the toilet sensor. Panicking, he shuts the stall door and climbs onto the toilet to hide. The killer enters the bathroom to wash blood off his face. Muttering to himself, he mentions needing some keys. Tom carefully moves to the next stall, just as the killer grabs the guard's keys and radio. Tom stays as still as possible to avoid making noise. Eventually, the killer leaves to deal with fire sprinklers and starts planting explosives in the file room. Tom rushes to the break room, where he finds Roger. Desperate, he fills him in on the situation and they try to escape through the elevator, but it's offline. Their next idea is the emergency exit, but the killer has already blocked it. With no way out, they return to the reception area to try the computer, only to find the internet is down. When the killer starts heading their way, they duck out of sight. The killer, noticing the computer had been used, becomes suspicious and disconnects it. He leaves, but not before revealing he has a key card too. After the coast is clear, Tom uses Roger's key card to get into the executive offices. While Tom searches for Alan, he sends Roger to grab his phone and call for help. Roger manages to reach his desk and dials his wife, but doesn't get a chance to explain. The killer finds him and forces him to tell her everything's fine. Tom, witnessing this from a distance, hurries to grab a knife from the break room. Meanwhile, the killer grills Roger about whether anyone else is still in the building. Roger lies, claiming he's alone. In response, the killer strangles Roger with a cable, all while Tom's hidden phone continues recording. When Tom returns, he finds Roger's body propped in a chair. Grabbing his phone, he tries to call 911, but the battery dies. Frustrated, he plugs it into a charger. As the phone reboots, he discovers the killer has noticed his jacket caught in a door. Quickly, Tom hides in a closet, where he stumbles upon the lawyer's body. The killer, dragging Roger's body, makes a call, complaining that no one was supposed to be working late. While this is happening, Tom's phone finishes charging, and the ringtone gives away its location. The killer answers it, dismisses Anna's incoming call, and deletes the video of Roger's murder. After digging into Tom's phone settings, the killer figures out Tom's identity and starts calling out his name. Tom stays hidden and sneaks away under a desk. When the killer leaves, Tom sets a trash can on fire, hoping to activate the fire alarm, but it doesn't work. Thinking fast, he sets another fire by the window to catch the attention of someone in the neighboring building. His desperate gestures for help seem to work, at least for now. So, things start heating up when the killer smells the smoke from Tom's fire and bolts into the room with a fire extinguisher. Tom sees him coming, books it out of there, and pretends to make a phone call to stop the neighbor from calling for help. A little while later, Tom makes his way to the reception desk and uses the computer to create a new key card. The killer almost catches him in the act, but Tom quickly puts the computer into sleep mode and hides under the desk. Once the coast is clear, Tom resets all the building locks, which makes the killer's key card useless. Not stopping there, he switches off most of the lights in the building and rushes to Alan's office, only to find him deep in conversation with a woman. Before anything else can happen, the killer shoots the office lock open. Tom hides behind the door while the killer walks in. The killer seems to know Alan, but when the woman suddenly pulls out a gun, he shoots her without hesitation, takes her weapon, and tells Alan to stay put before leaving the office. Once the coast is clear, Tom confronts Alan about who the woman was. Alan explains that she was part of the Gam crime family and was supposed to testify against her husband. Alan figures the killer was hired by the Mafia to silence her. Their conversation is interrupted by a strange sound. It's the killer trying to break into the file room with an axe. Luckily, the file room is reinforced with steel and bulletproof glass, so his attempts are useless. Afterward, Tom and Alan try to make a run for it, but are forced to hide when they hear the killer coming. The killer shows up with the janitor in tow, using the janitor's voice to threaten Tom into coming out. Sensing something's off, Tom asks the killer to tell him the nickname he always used for the janitor. When the killer can't answer, Tom realizes the janitor is already dead. The killer then reactivates the elevators, hoping to lure them out. As Tom and Alan sneak through the building, they find the janitor's lifeless body with a note that reads, "You win." A ringing phone catches their attention, and they rush to a desk, shocked to see Tom's number calling. Alan immediately suspects a trap and tries to get away, but the killer appears and shoots him in the arm. With the killer chasing after them and firing shots, they manage to lock themselves in an office. Unfortunately, the door isn't reinforced, and the killer starts chopping it down with his axe. By the time he breaks in, Tom and Alan have already slipped into the file room. Desperate, Tom grabs the killer's phone to call for help, but it's locked with a password. Meanwhile, the killer, still holding Tom's phone, sends a text to Anna, tricking her into coming to the building. Determined to save her, Tom comes up with a plan and starts messing with the copy machine near the entrance. When Anna arrives, the killer takes her hostage and demands her phone so he can destroy it. Just then, Tom shows up and offers to trade the key card for Anna's safety. The killer doesn't trust him, but Alan steps in to help negotiate. After some tense moments, the killer agrees to release Anna and drops his gun. But as Alan hands over the key card, the killer pulls out another weapon, the guard's gun. Alan shoves the killer, giving Anna a chance to escape. But the killer knocks Alan out and drags him to the file room. Inside, the killer reveals that Alan was supposed to clear out the office before his arrival, exposing their secret partnership. The killer activates the explosives he planted earlier, just as Tom bursts in with a gun. Unfortunately, Tom realizes the gun is empty. In the chaos, Alan manages to escape and locks the killer inside the file room. The killer tries to use the key card to get out, only to discover it's a fake one Tom made using the copy machine. Suddenly, the explosives detonate, sparking a massive fire in the file room. The killer struggles to put out the flames, but eventually collapses from the smoke. Tom rushes in, discards the gun, and manages to extinguish the fire by toppling over the shelves. But just as he thinks it's over, the killer wakes up and attacks him. The two engage in a brutal fight, with the killer overpowering Tom. Anna tries to intervene, but gets knocked down in the process. Using the distraction, Tom delivers a punch to the killer. Both men fall, but before the killer can regain the upper hand, Alan appears and shoots him. Before dying, the killer whispers, 11:22. Tom grabs the keys from the killer's pocket, while Anna uses them to activate the elevators. Back at the desks, Tom discovers the case file that reveals Denning Pharmaceuticals' plan to cover up all evidence. Entering 11:22 into the killer's phone unlocks it, revealing Alan's number. It turns out Alan had been paid off by the pharmaceutical company to sabotage the case and hired the killer to destroy the files and kill Roger. Alan tries to justify his actions, claiming corporations are worse than the Mafia, and even offers Tom a bribe to keep quiet. But Tom refuses, taking the files and leaving. Left with no options, Alan takes his own life. As the police close in, Tom and Anna make their escape. Meanwhile, back in the file room, the copy machine continues spitting out copies of the case evidence. A cop, who secretly provided the killer with his gun, finds Tom's phone in the killer's hand and immediately contacts a hitman to silence Tom. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to subscribe for more. See you next time.